All right, there's definitely a reason that you clicked on this video. If you're a water sign or you have a lot of water in your chart, or even beyond astrology, if you identify as an empath, you're someone that's very sensitive to other people's energy, very intuitive, you're very affected by other people, this video is for you. Now, there's a lot of different languages we can use to make sense of some of these personality characteristics, and a lot of them are extremely helpful. I think one of the most effective things is really just having an ability to understand why sometimes you feel a little bit different. You might be a person that's been told you're too much, like you're too sensitive, you're too this, you're too emotional, all these things. And no one ever likes hearing that. It's like, thanks, dude, I know that. And you saying that isn't helpful. For people that kind of self-identify with this, or they have water in their chart, typically they have personality characteristics or sensitivity that they've had and they've felt for a long time, probably since they were a kid. There's usually nurture-based reasons, environmental reasons why people are this way. Typically, they're very attuned to a primary caregiver, or for some reason or other, really sort of cut off an impulse to be selfish. And while that's good in a lot of ways, it also kind of cut off your ability to sometimes be healthily selfish. There is such thing as healthy egoism, healthy selfishness. I think one of the most fascinating things is that whether you're looking at something through a psychological lens or a genetic lens or an astrological lens, it's not necessarily that one lens is more correct or one lens is going to explain it better. Typically just they're different languages, and you are going to see the same things no matter what kind of language you use. So there's a very famous book called like The Highly Sensitive Person. That's a language you could use. In the context of relationships, typically highly sensitive, empathic people tend to lean more on the anxious side, and we're talking here about the language of like attachment styles. So that's another language, right? These empathic people tend to be more what we call anxiously attached. They need a lot of validation. They need a lot of touch points. They are very sensitive to the moods of other people. They are affected by those moods versus an avoidant or other types where their tendency is more to kind of shut down and pull away, and they want to self-soothe independently or else kind of repress emotions. And we could also look at all these through an astrological lens. Typically, empathy and sensitivity is associated with the water signs. So we're talking Scorpio, we're talking Pisces, we're talking Cancer. And you could have water in a lot of different parts of your chart. We're not just talking about sun signs. Or you could also have a really prominent 4th house, really prominent 8th or 12th house, or maybe you just have the moon in a very prominent. I'm rambling a little bit, but there's a lot of different ways in which we could see this through an astrological lens. The thing I'll say about all these is that it's really helpful to have something to sort of make sense of what you're going through, but you also need something that's also going to help keep you accountable and help be a little bit of a framework for growth and maximizing the strengths of these characteristics, of your sensitivity, of your empathy, and trying to move away from more self-harmful expressions of the energy, right? Because nothing is inherently good or bad. It just kind of is. Having said all that, probably the single most powerful thing that an empath or a water sign can do is learn how to completely step into their own being, their own safety, their own sense of self. Basically learning how to stand in the sea of their turbulent emotions and turbulent feelings and be okay. It doesn't, we're not talking about getting rid of the feelings. We're not talking about getting rid of anxiety. We're not talking about getting rid of fear or sadness or weariness. None of that. That's the bad news is none of that stuff ever totally goes away, but it's about being able to sit with it and remind yourself and do the things that help you remind yourself that it's still okay, right? And that you can handle this, and that you don't necessarily need what you think you need, right? You don't need another person to tell you a particular thing. You don't need a particular job. You don't need a particular income. You don't need things to be in a certain way, right? Because you can cultivate that sense of safety in yourself. For water signs, I really want you to ask yourself, like, how long is too long to spend your life really worrying about other people and what they think? Like, don't worry, you're never going to be an unfeeling, arrogant, selfish jerk, right? That's probably not you. So stop feeling like you have to fix everything, or that other people's problems or opinions of you is like your thing. It's not your thing. Like, you don't have to carry that. And that's makes sense, but it's hard sometimes. It's actually like a really big sort of mindset and paradigm shift once that like finally sinks in. This is not my shit. This is your shit. I am not going to be bothered by it. I'm not going to be set off course. The key for water signs is really just learning how to dodge the waves that you don't want to hit you and riding the ones that you want to ride. It's literally just about surfing. Now, obviously we're generalizing with all the water signs here. Each water sign kind of has their own sort of characteristic spin on their empathy and their sensitivity, right? Like Pisces individuals tend to have very porous boundaries. It's very hard for them to set boundaries. And so their energy gets, it leaks into other people. It also gets kind of pulled. Pisces are people that can be manipulated, or their energy is manipulated. They're also really sensitive to what we might call like energy takers, or psychic vampires, or other people that have a lack of water or emotional energy will rely on Pisces people, because Pisces people tend to shapeshift and orient themselves in a way as to fill the gaps in other people and fill their wounds. Cancer, again, extremely sensitive, intuitive, empathic sign. Their issue is more learning to let go, right? Learning to let go and walk away and step into their own frame. Cancers have such a high need for security and comfort and safety. They need that. That's their primary need. And their natural lesson in life is learning that they don't necessarily have to get that from other people. Not even that they shouldn't be relying on other people for that, right? They don't need to hang on. And what is familiar, what is familial, what is like family is not necessarily what's best for them. And just because they've been doing something for a certain period of time, or they've been with a certain person for a certain period of time, and because that feels comfortable, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's serving them. And because they're not always consciously aware of that, it's easy for other people to control or direct them or influence them in ways that aren't always actually serving their ability to create that sense of safety and comfort and self-love for themselves. Scorpio's brand of empathy is more just about a lack of trust, a lack of trust in other people, but also just a lack of trust in the world, in the fact that things are going to be all right, a lack of trust in inherent goodness and inherent abundance of life, right? Scorpios are worried about being betrayed, left, abandoned. They are so fearful and sensitive to pain, and that causes them to apply a detective-like mentality to everything, where they have to litigate and dissect and analyze and be a detective, because they're trying to predict the future, because they're trying to prepare themselves or give themselves some armor or protection against the rejection, the hurt, the bad thing happening, so they don't feel pain. Scorpio, it's about learning how to trust, right? To be able to trust other people in a healthy way, and to be close to them while also giving them freedom in that trust, and realizing they don't have to like try and control people. They don't have to manipulate other people. And they don't even do this intentionally. Sometimes it's just an unconscious thing. Again, because they're just so averse to feeling any kind of pain or any harmful effects from things that they don't have control over. What all these water signs have in common is that all of these sort of personality traits manifest as sometimes can be an over-involvement in other people, what other people are thinking, what other people are feeling, and needing something very particular from them. You know, a need to kind of control, either directly, like through sort of like manipulation. Sometimes Scorpio, you do that, or whether it's a need for control and protection through giving and serving other people, which is Cancer, or that's like control and protection by always kind of trying to make yourself slippery or make yourself into something that's fictional, that addresses what people need from you, but is actually a little bit of an illusion and a self-deception to yourself, and a way to take you away from your really authentic self, Pisces. All of these approaches are focused on other people instead of really turning the lens back on yourself and figuring out how to address those needs and fears yourself. This doesn't mean that you're cutting off your emotions. It doesn't mean that you're cutting off the importance of relationships in your life, right? Because water signs are never really going to want to do that. It's more about realizing that when you are coming from a place of safety, when you're coming from a place of self-nourishment, when you're coming from a place of like really caring for your soul, you not only create natural safety for yourself and a natural ability to say, okay, like I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I'm okay with that. I'll be okay no matter what. When you're able to really do that for yourself and really internalize and really embody that, not only do you create a sense of stability and safety for yourself that doesn't rely on other people, but you also are able to be a much more present and authentic partner, right? The love you have for other people and the way that you show that is more authentic, and it's more sort of just unconditional. You're not loving or doing these things for a person or addressing people's needs because you're expecting to get something from them. You're expecting to get safety. You're expecting to have your fears addressed and saved. You're doing it purely because you love the other person, or you care about the other people, or you want to give your gifts to the world. This is going to help you not only have better relationships, have better partnerships, but it's also going to help you really truly channel your power in your life, because an empathic ability or a sensitivity to other people, when it's not really regulated or oriented, when you're not really taking care of yourself, and when that sensitivity and empathy is not being managed in the correct way, you're also self-sabotaging your personal power to go out and really accomplish what you want to do in life. And so it leaves you constantly feeling stuck, and you get in this repetitive, dark cycle that's emotionally intense. This just really kind of exhausting cycle of feeling scared and wary and having your power blunted as you try to do things in the world. And so you feel like you have wounds, and then you reach out to other people and you need things from other people, but because you're off balance and you are not coming at those people from a place of safety and comfort and confidence and being in kind of self-reliant, you end up in really imbalanced relationships. You attract partners that are toxic in their own ways, or you put certain pressures on the relationship that end up making the relationships imbalanced or toxic, even if the people involved are still, good people. Could also just attract a lot of shitty people, right? And so the cycle continues, right? Where a lot of your emotional energy is then being invested in the holes of the relationship, because the holes of a bad relationship will reveal themselves. And when you're constantly having to deal with that, what energy do you even have left to go out and accomplish things in your life that you want to, aside from your relationships? Because water signs, empathic people, relationships are going to be so important to you. but they also aren't the only thing. The gift of a really incredible, really nourishing relationship, yeah, it's great, it feels great, physical attraction, physical affection, and like love, that all feels great, but also having a super supportive partner that's pursuing their purpose and supporting you to pursue yours, that is so powerful. And that just really takes, relationship energy or the benefit of a relationship to the next level. And it can be such a force for you in your life. But it's a force because you are taking care of the things that you need to take care of. You are marshaling your energy in a particular way. You are marshaling your oceanic emotional energy in a way that makes you feel grounded without anyone else. And that allows everything else to fall in place. In all of these things I'm describing, it just depends on changing your story. None of this stuff is a project or a big pile of work that you have to slog over. It's just changing the story. And once you change the story and make a decision about how you want to be differently and just change where you're looking, it all can happen fast. So you have to decide. Absolutely no other zodiac sign is capable of making such a quantum leap in personal growth and evolution and accomplishment quite like a water sign, because it's about channeling that incredible amount of oceanic power. Now, I know a lot of this might just sound like, oh, so hokey and just, self-helpy and new age and just kind of like what everyone else is saying. But like, you're not going to get it right away, or maybe you're not going to totally internalize it. But it's really amazing how the most powerful lessons in life and the hardest to totally grasp are really the simplest ones. And it's because simplicity seems too easy, or it seems like obvious. But what's really hard is to actually internalize those lessons, operationalize them, and believe them. All this comes down to is an idea of having the stubbornness, having the obsession, having literally just the desire to want to change the narrative and change the lane of your life. The biggest challenge for water signs is that they have such an intense emotional memory, right? Everything in their life is loaded and coded and filled up with some type of memory, and those memories are always connected to emotions. And it's not like all those emotions or memories are all created equal. There are definitely some things that have more of an effect on water signs than others, but what even the heck do I mean by this? Well, it's like objects, all the objects in your house, there's some kind of emotional memory or narrative attached to them. Your habits, what you do every day, there's an emotional memory attached to them. They make you feel a certain way. And the biggest challenge for water signs when they want to reverse course or just mix things up or change their life is that they have to temporarily swim upstream, or they feel like they have to. The challenge for them is that anytime they're changing or manipulating big things in their life, it's like they are disturbing all of that emotion. So they have to kind of process all of it. And so it's like when you're, moving like an old dusty couch in a basement, right? And like all the dust is settled on it. But once you start agitating it, it all kind of goes up, and you have to breathe it in. It's in the air, and it's a little bit unavoidable. If you want to get out of that or just change the way that you've been thinking or approaching things, you have to just change the story. You have to change your story. You have to change the story that you're telling yourself. You have so much incredible power and potential to choose the direction in your life that you want to go, or reverse direction. You have to tell yourself, this is who I am now. You just change it. It's like that. There is no don't think about having to slog through all the feelings. Just picture yourself after them. Like, are you going through a really tough breakup, or are you feeling like you want the attention of someone, or you want them to reach out to you or text you, or you want them to tell you that they're sorry or whatever? You don't deal with that problem by continuing to wage war against it, because an empathic person's feelings, a water sign person's feelings, they are fierce, right? Like, you can't fight your own feelings. It's okay to feel incredibly sad and destitute and rejected and horrible when those things happen in life. No one feels rejection like a water sign. No one feels disappointment. No one feels anxiety. No one feels depression like a water sign does. Don't be Sisyphus, like continuing to roll up a giant boulder up the mountain every day until it kind of rolls back down, right? You're just gonna beat yourself up and wear yourself down, and maybe you eventually get past those feelings, maybe you don't, but you're going to be decrepit and beat down and tired and sore, or you're going to start, finding ways to anesthetize yourself, to numb the feelings, to escape that. Doesn't mean don't feel your feelings. Like, you can't run away from them. You have to feel them. Give your time to really grieve the stuff in your life. Like, you're a sensitive person. That's your superpower. So let yourself feel it, but don't continue to fight for what you think is going to make you happy within the same lane, within the narrative of, oh, this bad thing happened to me and I want it to be different. That's like the language of desire. It's the language of I wish this thing could happen and I don't have it. You need to reorient yourself to say, no, I am this way, or I'm deciding this is how it's going to be now. And maybe like the rest of yourself or your body doesn't quite feel it yet, but for water signs, you really have to learn the power of faking it until you make it. It sounds like it can't work, but that's why it's so hard. And it's not easy, right? It's simple, but it is hard because you have to stay focused and you have to continually remind yourself that you want to be in this other place, and that's what you decided. And if you decide it, it will be. Trust me, it will be. Once you decide what you want, the universe kind of conspires. I don't even like the word conspires, but it will conspire and orient itself in a way to make it happen. Maybe a better way about thinking of it is that you are seeing the universe and you will see it and you will see the path, right? And the path will open up. But it's not even about the path opening up. It's about the fact that once you decide that this is where I am, you're already there. You are already at the destination. The rest of the stuff is just kind of like scenery, right? You just kind of enjoy the ride. I am okay. I am safe. I am going to be okay. I'm not reliant on anyone else. I don't need anyone else's validation or approval. And because I am in this safe spot, I can also then use all this extra emotional, powerful energy to go out and accomplish my purpose and accomplish what I want in life. And this is what I want. Pick it. You can choose. Anyway, we're cutting it off here. I feel like this video was a little bit all over the place, but I wanted to share it with you. Thank you for watching and see you soon.